Good morning or good afternoon. I'm not sure what time you're watching this.
Or good night.
Yes. Today is day 25 for the Lifebook Excitement. We're going to be going through all of chapter 11 today. There's 5 chunks, I think. Yeah, 5 different titles. And anyway, so we're getting through that. So today might be a tiny bit longer, but there's some interesting things and some stuff that really kind of paints a picture of some stuff that that's happening.
So starting on page 57 with the triumphal entry. So Jesus is heading to Jerusalem. And if you remember in the last video when he predicted his death, he said, we will be going to Jerusalem and that's where the Son of Man will be killed. So he's probably already processing that this is getting ready to happen. And so this particular part, he is asking the disciples to go and find a donkey or a colt and bring it to them. And so they did. And so remember, there's all these followers that have been following Jesus along his journey. Kind of like, when you follow a famous person, there's like all these people. He didn't want that, but that is just what has happened. So all the people that have been following him, when they were entering into Jerusalem, they started laying their cloaks down in front so that Jesus would have this like royal entry. And I don't think Jesus wanted that. He just wanted a donkey to sit on. But they kind of went all out and grabbed palm branches and started saying, Hosanna, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. And so we call that, some people that are Christians call that Palm Sunday. And that kind of marks the beginning of the persecution of Jesus leading up to his death and resurrection.
And some of this stuff, it had to happen had to happen this way because of how it was predicted when in the Old Testament before Jesus was even on earth. And there were some things that needed to go a certain way. So like that's why he had to get the colt. But there were certain things that had already been talked about, and that's some of why some of this was happening.
So he entered into Jerusalem. They made it into the city. And when he looked around, he decided to go out to Bethany away from the crowd just with his 12 disciples. Doesn't really say what they did. I'm guessing they fell asleep because they said it was already late at night. So then the next day, they came back from Bethany. Jesus was hungry. He feels the same feelings that we feel because he is fully God and fully man. So in the distance, he sees this fig tree and it was nothing but leaves. And it wasn't the season for figs. And so I'm thinking he got a little hangry and said, may no one ever eat this fruit from you again. And his disciples heard it. So they're probably like, okay, Jesus, you're a little hungry there. We'll hear more about that in a little bit.
And then right after he sees this, then he goes into the temple, and that's supposed to be the holy place, and he gets frustrated. And I don't think it was like an unrighteous anger, but it says that and he entered the temple and began to drive out those who sold and bought things. And you think like, well, they're having the ramate inside of, and they're doing the flea market inside the temple. And it's not that they were selling things or making a living, but it's that they were doing it at church. They were doing it in the temple in a holy place, and they're sitting there making money out of this. And Jesus wanted to very clearly say, no, this is not the place for this. This is not what should be happening. And then anyway, as you get bottom of page 58, it says, is it not written, my house shall be a house of prayer for all the nations, but you have made it into a den of robbers. And I'm not sure why he says the robbers part. Maybe it's that, because that would insinuate that it's that they're taking money, which that could very well be it. But the point is that Jesus, he definitely was not happy. And it wasn't that he was, doesn't sound like he's getting crazy, but he's definitely frustrated. Like, hey, knocking over a table, like, you guys need to go. You got to go now. Get out. And so I think it's a reminder that Jesus, if he sees things that are not correct, he will try to correct them.
And some people have said, oh gosh, did Jesus sin here? Because Jesus is supposed to be perfect and without sin. And I think that this is a great lesson for us, that righteous anger for a good reason, is not a sinful thing. If there's injustice happening around you, if there's abuse taking place, if there's, even in other countries, we were just reading about 150 kids that are Christians were just kidnapped in another country just for believing that Jesus was real.
And with Jesus, even if it did say that he was angry, it wasn't like he was yelling and cursing and saying things. He just went about his Father's business. Like, I'm going to make this right. This shouldn't be happening here. I'm going to knock your stuff over to get it where you guys stop. You need to leave. And that's what he was doing. He was about his Father's business.
So if you feel an anger inside for an injustice that's taking place, that's an okay anger to feel. And we would recommend that you give that over to God and that you talk to somebody about that, because anger with violence is not okay. But anger with a move to make things better, that's a righteous anger. And that is that your anger should propel you to do good and not harm to somebody. Yep. So on page 59, the lesson, now we're back to the fig tree. When they passed by in the morning, they saw the fig tree and it was all withered away and dead. And Peter's like, Rabbi, look, the fig tree that you cursed, it's dead. And he replies, truly I say to you, whoever says to this mountain, be taken up and thrown into the sea, does not doubt in his heart, but believes in what he says will come to pass, it will be done for him. Therefore I tell you, whatever you ask in prayer, in my name, believe that you have received it and it will be yours. And whenever you stand praying, forgive if you have anything against anyone, so that your Father who is in heaven may also forgive your trespasses. So that's like a big lesson from a dying fig tree, right? And this is really important, I think, because he's not a magic genie. I think some people take that, whatever you ask in prayer, it'll be done if you believe. And I don't think that's what it's saying at all. I think that, number one, it's saying don't doubt the realness of God when you're praying big prayers. But also, in the Bible, it says anything that you ask in my name. And I think that right there aligns with God's will. If you're asking for something and it's not in alignment with God's will, it's not going to be an answered prayer, because he wants what's best for you. Yeah. He's always seeking after what's best.
And it says at the beginning of the red letters there, it says, have faith in God. So, that's where he prefaces. That's what he starts with. And the thing is if we have faith in God and we're not just asking for things because we want something else, or we want a new car, or we want a new video game, or we want a new gaming console, or a
team
chair.
To win.
Yeah, or a team to win. The thing is God is saying this as far as the fact that we do need to have faith. We do need to trust. And we do need to remember that if we are going to go to God and ask for things, we do need to go and ask for forgiveness from people. We do need to forgive others. And he's setting that up as far as where our heart needs to be when we do go before him and do talk. And then we leave the rest to God, because like Miss Haley said, he's not a genie. However, he does do miraculous things.
Yeah, and not to forget that he does answer prayers, big prayers. He's answered big prayers in our lives, but we have to have the faith and be aligned with God's will.
And right after that, this is nearing the end of chapter 11. Right after that, because this is like now here within a few days, this is all going down very quickly as far as Jesus going to be going to be crucified. But then, so the Pharisees are asking questions, and they're trying to pin him in a corner. And he says, I'll ask you one question. Answer me, and I will tell you by what authority I do these things. Because they're asking, like, who do you heal things? How do you do this? And he says, what was the baptism of John, from heaven or from man? Answer me. When he says John, he's talking about John the Baptist, because John was baptizing. And so these people, the Pharisees, who their hearts were not in the right place, they're trying to corner Jesus. And they discussed it with one another, saying, if we say from heaven, then Jesus is going to respond, why then did you not believe him? And they're like, uh-oh. But if we say from man, they were afraid of the people, for they all held that Jesus really was a prophet. So the Pharisees are quickly realizing this is not going to go well. So they answered Jesus, we do not know. And Jesus said to them in Jesus fashion, neither will I tell you by what authority I do these things. So Jesus, he wasn't just going out, like when he would talk in parables, it was so that to normal people it wasn't necessarily clear. And he said that to the disciples earlier, like I speak in parables and I'll explain it to you guys. He's like, but everyone's not at the place where they're going to understand this. Like I could tell them, but it's just gonna be foolishness to them. And that's how chapter 11 finishes up, because Mark has 16 chapters. The thing is Jesus is going about teaching things, but here within a couple days he's going to end up going to the cross and dying for our sins. So it's not that far away. And so this just shows about how Jesus interacts with the people that are not for him, and that their hearts are far. Their hearts are not in a good place.
All right, so next time, that was a lot of reading this time, so we're going easy on you next time. Your homework is to read chapter 12, just that first section, the parable of the tenants. So that's page 60 all the way almost to the bottom of page 61.
Yeah, it's like a tiny bit more than a page.
Yep. So we look forward to seeing you shortly. And if there's anything we can pray for you for, or anything you'd like to share that God's doing in your life, you can email us at refugearmona@gmail.com or send us a text message 559-410-0655. Bye.